Now, for our next guest this morning, we're going to be speaking with Jen Keane, who has set up the Irish Gender Pay Gap portal, and she's going to be speaking about the portal as well as the process behind how it works and how the government can help improve the gender pay gap, because one of the major goals of this is to get the government to really put the foot forward and try and set up a portal for themselves. So we're joined now by Jen Keane, who's here to tell us a little bit more. She's joining us in studio. So Jen, very good morning.
Hey, good morning. Lovely to be here.
And thanks a million for coming on. So just to start off from the top, we just finished our little pre-interview chat there, and we had a little bit of a chat about the portal and the improvements that could be made over the next couple of years. And one of the big ones that you mentioned was for the government to take that leap and make a portal for themselves. So how could you see the government implementing this? And in your own personal opinion, how do you think it should be implemented?
Yeah, so the thing is, there's already, I suppose, form for how the government could implement this based on how it's been done in other countries. There's a few other countries that also have the same kind of gender pay gap reporting legislation, Australia, the UK, etc. And they already have a central portal where not only can members of the public search and find the information, but companies actually have to submit their data to that portal. So they can also make the same kind of reports that companies in Ireland are making right now, where they have the PDFs and they explain, our gap is huge because we have like 10% women in the whole company.
Yeah.
But they have to submit the actual core figures to this portal. When the government published the legislation here, when they started with this legislation, they did say they were going to make a portal. And I was hopeful that would come pretty quickly and be like the portal in the UK, which it's a really good resource. But it's 3 years in and they still haven't. Because of that, then, companies just pick whatever format they like to report in. They miss data. Some of the data they report is incorrect. And if the government were to actually deliver on a central portal, they'd be able to do things like checking. Hey, is that data actually correct? Are you putting everything in your report? No, you can't submit it. We'd be able to check if reports were late. It wouldn't be, I feel, that hard for the government to do it. I built the first version of mine in a weekend. They're a whole government.
And they have so many people on board that they could pretty much do it within a similar amount of time, because if one person can do it, a whole government can do it. And one thing that you mentioned as well is, and I like this, that it really falls on personal responsibility, that it's up to you as a business to get your data in on time, and if you're late, it's pretty much on you. And yeah. I like that you're taking matters into your own hands.
Yeah, and I'm super proud of the work that I've done, but also it is frustrating and sad that it's on me. It sometimes feels like I'm the only person in Ireland who actually cares whether these reports are on time or whether they're correct. And an awful lot of the time there's not. And that's slightly by design. It's actually, as an individual, very difficult to do anything about it if a report is wrong. There's no ombudsman you complain to, no body you can complain to. There's no one that you can actually talk to. You have to be working for a company and then take them to court if they don't publish a report. That's your pathway. Or go to the workplace, the WRC basically, and say, hey, would you mind talking to this company? And they can look at it and go, no, we're not going to actually.
And even when data's late, you honed in there about how there's no way of looking into specific data that's late. And even for businesses that are trying to find the portal for themselves, they'd really have to do a bit of digging, whereas with a government one, it has a bigger outreach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a nice domain, I have, some links, and I get a decent amount of traffic to the website. But let's be so real, it would be much easier for businesses to find it if it was a government portal, if it was advertised by the government, if part of the legislation was, hey, here's a portal, you must use it.
And it's fascinating that the creation of this portal as a whole, it came over a weekend. So would you like to tell us a little bit about the creation of the portal and maybe a little bit about your background in technology and what really made you specialise in gender equality specifically?
Yeah, so I've been working in the tech industry in general for almost 20 years now. First as a coder and now as a product manager. So part of the reason I'm so interested in gender equality is unfortunately a very personal reason. I have been a lot of the time the only woman in the room.
Okay.
And I've experienced pay discrimination and difficulties and just gender discrimination in general. And I've often struggled with how hard it is to be the only woman in the room, to be the only one constantly saying, hey, is this fair? Or, hey, are we caring about this? You know, you have people kind of almost rolling their eyes like, oh, there's Jen off on one again. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't have to be if you were all too. So I used that coding background to basically make this portal. It started as a small page on my personal blog. And when I was hopeful that the government would have a portal by the second year. So I thought, that's fine. One little page will do. And then the second year rolled around and it became clear that they weren't going to have a portal and I wanted to do more. So I just said, okay, this is too big now for one small page. I want to do more. I want to show graphs. I want to let people compare. It's going to have to be its own website.
Because try as you might, you can't hide the data. It has to come out at some point. Mm-hmm. As they always say, the truth always prevails.
Absolutely. And I'm a big believer in sunlight as the best disinfectant. There's questions you can ask of the data. There's other ways to report. There's lots of nuance in how you interpret gender pay gap data. But ultimately, you have to publish the numbers. And everyone's legally obliged to publish their report. And you can talk all you like about this initiative and that initiative and share pictures of women laughing with salad on International Women's Day. But if your report says that you have a 40% gender pay gap, then that's pretty clear how you actually value your female employees.
A very telltale sign.
Yeah.
And with the gender pay gap itself, especially now with International Women's Day tomorrow, this is a hot button topic and it needs to be addressed and put to the forefront. So for those who aren't aware, what is the gender pay gap? And in terms of calculation, how does it work?
So the gender pay gap is a representation of what is the difference in what you pay men and women at your company. It's expressed in these reports. It has to be both the mean and the median. So the average and the middle if you were to line everyone in the company up.
Okay.
Same for bonus. And the figures that I often talk about are the median figures because they're a little less likely to be skewed by one large or one low number. So it's, I think, a slightly fairer number, even though the mean is often much worse and a much bigger splashy number to report. It's expressed as a percentage of the male earnings, which is why you'll see companies publishing negative figures. When they publish a negative figure, that means they pay their women more on average than they pay their male employees. For me, the average figure is actually not the most interesting figure we publish. The companies also have to publish their gender quartiles. So basically line everyone who works for the company up in order of how much they are paid. Divide that into 4 quarters. And in each of those quarters, how many men and how many women? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? And that's a super good way to see the people who are in senior leadership. Are they mostly men or mostly women? Because, of course, your senior leadership roles, those are the highest paid roles.
Yeah, because in my mind, I always thought, as you said there, it's like lining people up and just calculating it based on overall data. But I didn't realise that it was split into quartiles and it's calculated through the quartiles and it's really honing in on the median average.
Yeah. And as I said, I think the quartiles are very interesting because sometimes companies will have figures where their actual pay gap, it doesn't look too bad, but you look at the quartiles and you still see, well, wait a minute here. You still actually have very few women in senior leadership. And not only is that a problem for the pay gap, but also how company policies are influenced, how company decisions are influenced. If you're not having kind of gender equality at those highest senior levels, you're also missing the influence. It's not just about the pay, it's about who's in the room making the decisions.
And one of the big selling points of the website as well is the data that's published on the website, that the key facts are there. And as we were chatting outside, you were talking about how by year it's slowly decreased. And I assume that's to get more traffic towards the website and to put more pressure on businesses to actually follow through and set it up. So in relation to the pay gap, how do you anticipate that changing over time? I know you said right now it's currently 50 employees and you don't see that changing for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, so the number of employees that you report on, it's gone down as we were talking about year on year. At first it was 250 employees, now 150, and this year it'll be 50 employees. I don't think they'll take the number lower than that, because beyond that you start to get into privacy concerns and people being able to maybe work out things
giving
about
people larger
salaries.
access to a smaller group.
Yeah, and you want to, the point of the legislation is not to make people have to disclose personal data they don't want to. It's to give a general overview. So it won't go lower than 50 employees, I think.
And then another project that you've set up on top of it is the GitHub project, and that's in relation to the overall data set that you've got published on the website. So if somebody's checking in on the website, how can someone access company reports, or even if they've submitted reports, how can they make updates and render and edit any additional information that they can put in?
Yeah, that's a great question. The point of the GitHub project is really because I wanted it to be as accessible as possible for everyone, however they want to use it. So whether that's just looking up your own company on the website, or whether that's you want to actually do something with the data yourself, you want to build your own website, you want to run your own data analysis. From the website, you can download a full data set that you can just put into a Google Sheet if that's how you'd prefer. Or, from GitHub, you can pull the data from GitHub and make a pull request, add more data. There's also a form on the website, so if anyone finds a pay gap report that I don't have, or wants to submit their own pay gap report, they can go to the form on the website and send the link to me. And if they want to be very helpful, fill in some of the numbers from the link into the form, so that I don't have to do so much data entry myself.
And with the process of submitting data, one of the main aspects of it is the idea of snapshots. Now, if we're looking back into 2024, we're going to go a little bit back in time. The deadline beforehand was 6 months. So you had from June of 2024 up till December of 2024. Yep. Now, from what I understand now, that deadline has gone down by a month. Now it's 5 months.
Yeah, that's
so
correct.
It's going from June up to November.
Yes.
So as we're going into kind of 2026 and later years, will that sort of decrease over time in a similar fashion to how the number of employees has increased over time, or will that be different?
I suspect they won't shrink that deadline too much, because they want to give companies time to produce the reports. With that said, I do know there's a lot of other companies, there's a lot of payroll companies and things like that trying to help people basically automate the production of their reports or make it easier and quicker. I understand, particularly the first year, wanting to give companies lots of time to produce their report.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Really, if you know the report is coming and you know that you have to produce one, I don't know why it would take you so many months to produce the report, especially with so many like payroll companies and HR companies integrating the production of these reports right into the software they're already using to run their payroll and HR in the business. So I'd love to see that deadline shrink.
Exactly, because you've hit the nail right on the head there. If it's anticipated, you know it's coming, just do it.
Yep. And that's part of the reason why each year I've also kind of looked with a little bit of dread, as we kind of run towards June and I don't see a portal. I'm like, okay, well, I guess there's not going to be a portal this year either, because although companies have until December, they don't have to wait until December or November. If you picked June 15th as your snapshot date, there's nothing stopping you publishing on June 16th. You just have until, in this year, November 16th to publish.
But you can do it within any time frame between that.
Yep, you have the whole time period. And like I said, as more companies are providing people with options to generate these reports quickly, I mean, why shouldn't it shrink beyond 5 months? Why should it not be 2 months or 1 month?
And then on your website, you've got a variety of other inclusivity programs that are ongoing, and I'm assuming you're going to have plenty in the future as we're going forward through 2025 into 2026 and later years. So if anybody's curious, how can they find more information on the pay gap itself, any inclusivity programs that are ongoing now, and even any future ones, and then keeping in contact with your work, getting in touch directly, or if they want to give you a follow on social media?
Yep. So paygap.ie is the website, and there's lots of information on there. After an enlightening conversation with my mum, I had a page put up there where I was explaining what the reports actually mean, because I realised not everyone has read all of these reports for fun. So there's a lot of information there on what the terms mean, how they're calculated. There's also information there on how to contact me. So I would love for people to get in touch with me if they have further questions or comments or find a report or anything like that. You can also email me hello@jenniferkeane.ie. And I am on socials at Zen Buffy. I'm no longer really on Twitter, but I am on Blue Sky and Masto as both Zen Buffy there too.
Perfect, and we'll be sure to shout all of that out towards the end of the show. But thanks so much for coming on, and it's phenomenal work that you're doing, first of all, and best of luck with future projects coming down the line.
Thanks very much for having me.
You're welcome.